Hey everyone, what is going on? What is going on? Welcome to That Man Show. My name is Curtis Brooks. I am your host, specializing in transformational leadership for men. Guys, we got another great show for you. We're talking about, she's always a delay in this for some reason. We're talking about manufactured leadership or authentic leadership, choosing the right path. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know that we are streaming to multiple platforms. Our primary place of streaming is going to be LinkedIn. So that's our primary stomping ground there. And we're sharing the stream out to Facebook. You can locate me on Facebook if you can under Curtis Brooks. And it is going to be free on YouTube. So essentially with YouTube, you don't have to sign in. You can locate me over on YouTube at Men's Life Coaching. Again, the @ Men's Life Coaching over on YouTube. I hope everyone is doing well. I see William in the house. Hey, man, what is going on, man? Great interview that we did with William. Great conversation, man. I've had to listen to that conversation multiple times. So, man, thank you, William, for hosting a great conversation and being a great host, man. So this man, I tell you, man, William has put together an entire intro for me, and I absolutely loved it. He sent it to me, and so I'm going to use it at one time and at some point. But it was a great show, great discussion. So if you missed it, definitely visit William's channel or his page on YouTube. And I cannot remember the name of his page on YouTube, but you can check him out. Obviously, over on LinkedIn, you can check him out there, and it's also housed over on LinkedIn here. So again, we got a great show for you: manufactured leadership or authentic leadership, choosing the right path. Yeah, absolutely. Well, William, can't wait to do it again, man. Likewise, likewise. Great show, brother. Great show, and looking forward to yet another conversation, man. I really enjoyed that conversation. I think a lot of other people enjoyed it as well. So, that being said, we got another great show here for you. We're talking about manufactured leadership. And I want to start by saying that actually giving you a definition of the word science, and then I'm going to start this off with that, the word science. And I've done this before because when we see the word manufactured, we perhaps thinking of an assembly line, perhaps something that's put together manually, factored, meaning there's certain facts or information that's gone into putting this thing together. So it's a compilation of different resources or knowledge that brings this information together. So I want to look up this word science and give you the definition, and then we're going to get started with that. So the word science, definition of the word science, it says systematic knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observation and experimentation. And it says, goes on to say other couple of other definitions. It says knowledge as of facts, principles, knowledge gained by systematic study. So I want you to think about the word science, the definition I've shared with you, and also the word manufactured. I'm not going to go as far as sharing that definition with you right now, but I want you to understand that there's a choice that we're going to have to make, and reckoning this thing called leadership. And we know that leadership is not something that uh, that the elite get to enjoy. Leadership is for every last one of us. So whether you're running an organization that makes multiple millions of dollars or even billions of dollars a year, or whether you're running a household of four, your wife and two children and a dog, leadership is absolutely very important. And so we have to, you've heard me in the past talk about society, those people, and I just feel like I just need to press that in. You've heard me in the past talk about society and society not being, taking the mystery out of society. We've got people who just want to do evil, essentially. And it's unfortunate. Hey, Joshua Lee, thank you for joining, man, over on LinkedIn. So unfortunately, we got people who just want to do evil. And we call that society, or that motivation, or that concept, we call it society. And yet it is not society in itself, but it's just a group of people uh, who just have evil in their heart. They want to control matters, and that control can show up in all kinds of different ways. And earlier conversation I had with a good buddy of mine, Wayne, so I'll give him his props. typically have a great conversation. We'll talk for hours and hours upon stuff, but I want to share with you this leadership model, the traditional mindset of leadership, traditional models of leadership. Know that the traditional models of leadership have come from a barbaric place, the old Roman Empire concept, and how Rome ruled the entire world at one time or another. So we know this to be true. So this leadership, this thing that we call leadership, has been given birth out of this Roman Empire. And so, to a large degree, leadership has been manufactured because it houses not the a spiritual component, but not a, I would say, a good spirit that brings life, or that's and with the right intention, the right motivation. But this particular leadership that had come out of this Roman era, it was manufactured because it came out of the wrong spirit. It was the spirit of control. And so many of you have, I would probably say, have paid lots of money for leadership courses and leadership classes. So this question is for the men. It says, does leadership make you uncomfortable knowing that you are leading from a performance space, a space of performance, a space of uh, performing leadership? And I think that's the question on the table. And if I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to chime in, because we're talking about manufactured leadership or authentic leadership, choosing the right path, because you're going to have to choose a path. You're going to have to make a decision on how you're going to show up. And in most cases, we have been taught how to show up in a manufactured way. And this is unfortunate because through this manufactured space of leadership, we uh, we have a tendency to come off as know-it-alls. We have a tendency to come off as uh, uh, someone who is conforming to a particular a mindset, a person who obviously doesn't know themselves. And it is not always easy to get to know yourself. It's not always easy to get to know yourself because of this idea of leadership, being that this traditional mindset of leadership says that we have to have all the answers, unfortunately. So in this traditional mindset, space of leadership, it says that we must have all of the answers. We must refuse to admit that we make mistakes or even ask for help. This is the manufactured mindset of leadership. We often wear the mask of invulnerability, meaning that we have a hard time being invulnerable. We have a hard time being vulnerable in this space of manufactured leadership. Now, know that this space of manufactured leadership, it opposes the authenticity that is available to every last one of us. And this manufactured leadership, it is performance over presence in this space of manufactured leadership. It is focusing on looking like a leader rather than being one. Now, I've talked in the past about becoming. That's a major difference than talking a talk and actually becoming the leader that we need to be for our respective situations. The manufactured leader uh, prioritizes optics over outcomes. That means that the manufactured leader is basically looking at its reputation, perhaps, in some ways, his reputation over doing the right thing, looking at the aesthetics of a thing. Absolutely. Peter over here on LinkedIn says people should choose authentic leadership. Absolutely, they should. But the challenge, Peter, is getting to that place of authentic leadership. Hey, Tanique, thank you for joining over on LinkedIn. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining. And as Peter said, we should choose authentic leadership. And I think the challenge is that we don't know, a lot of us don't know how to get to that place of authenticity. We have been bombarded with layers of stuff, fear, our own shortcomings to a large degree, things that people have, things that may have heard from our parents, whether it was done intentionally or unintentionally. So there are a lot of different things that prevent us from showing up authentically, even in our youth, to become that authentic leader. And I think again, even before we become that authentic leader, you can. Uh, uh, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while because I think that we were all born in a place. The scriptures say that we're born into sin, but we're born into a place. I believe that we're born into a place where we were uninformed. I should say, uninformed to the level or to the depths of to the depths and the workings of the world that we were born into. And and I think through no understanding of our own, we adopted this mindset that was manufactured. We adopted this position that said, "Hey, I'll be my own God. I'll do this thing myself. I'll figure it out." And at some place or along the way, we created our own manuals, our own schools, our own ideas and concepts on how this worked, and even to science. And as I just read to you earlier, the definition of science, I you know, for me, the jury's not out on science, because we know that science can be manipulated, and people manipulate things, and not that the truth can be manipulated, but people manipulate the truth to speak to its own facts, if you will. And I think obviously we as people, not all people, but myself, I'll say one of my challenges was that looking at people or putting people who knew so much more than I did, and in such a place, and entrusting what they said to me. And I think a lot of us were have been in that place where we don't have the knowledge ourselves, but we entrusted the studying and the ideas or the sharing through, be it media, television, social media, all different kinds of media platforms. We entrusted these people to tell us the truth, but in reality, it was manufactured. And so, consequently, what do you think it gives birth to? It gives birth to, I'll answer that for you. It's going to give birth to more people who are going to manufacture things, more people who will come up with ideas. Yeah, Tanique over here on LinkedIn says truth can be manipulated, but it still remains the truth. But was it the truth? But was but was is the truth can be proven to be false? Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Let me read that again. Truth can be manipulated, but it's still truth was. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Tanique. So Tanique is saying that the truth can be manipulated, and I agree with you, absolutely. But it does not take away from it being the truth. But when we as people, again, myself included, when we've placed so much weight in those people that were supposed to know more than we did, or in fact knew more than we did, but chose to manipulate the information or manufacture something that was not truth in order to control. So basically, I guess what I'm saying in a nutshell is that this manufactured leadership really has been a way that we were controlled. And here's what I mean by that. I don't, again, I'm not a conspiracy theory. I don't mean to try to put all that out there, but the reality of it is that the traditional way of leadership, it had to be placed in particular classroom of thought, so to speak. And the idea, the concept is just a concept. Then there's a theory on how leadership works or how we lead people. Okay. And we know there's many, many names of leadership, multiple names of leadership, but in truth, the name never changes, or the name may change, but the concept does not change. So it's still, even if the name changes, it's still birthed out of the idea or the concept of control. So what happens is that people, and this is where we get social sciences, same idea, same concept, where I want to read this definition to you again really quick. Here's a short definition. It says science, this is definition of science, knowledge as of facts or principles, knowledge gained by systematic study, right? Another definition says systematic knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observation and experimentation. Say that word there. But so here's my point. This is what the definition I just read to you. That's the definition of science. That's the definition of social sciences as well. People were basically placed in an experiment. And when people are not fitting when people are not fitting into this classroom of thought, I'll say it that way. When we as people are not fitting into this classroom of thought, we can easily be labeled rebels or labeled other than, if you will, or put in the department other than. And the challenge is that for us as human beings, that when we feel rejected, and in most cases, we can find ourselves trying to get back to uh, a sense of belonging. And so rather than look at those opportunities where when things don't go right, where we may feel rejection, or opportunities to deal with the solitude, deal with the pain of rejection, in most cases, we're fighting, we end up fighting to belong rather than inquiring about that rejection or inquiring about why am I not fitting in? We're talking about manufactured leadership or authentic leadership, choosing the right path. And naturally, the right path is the authentic leadership. I say that that is the right path. Hopefully, by the end of this discussion, you'll choose that that is the right path as well. But getting there, getting to the right path can serve as a major challenge, because we have to be prepared to do away with all the things that we may have believed about ourselves. We have to be prepared to challenge different thoughts, if you will, about ourselves, different things that mom may have said about us, mom may have told about us, our grandparents, our father, other members of the family. We have to be prepared to challenge those things. We have to be prepared to challenge why we're not stepping up and doing the things that we need to be doing or we should be doing. We have to be prepared to question those things for why I'm not stepping out, fulfilling my dream. And I'll even go as far as to say that it's not necessarily always something that you're doing. as it is something that was placed upon you. The ideas and the concepts were placed upon you. And now it's about us learning how to find our truth, learning how to find our truth and come out from under the stuff that was placed upon us. And I can tell you firsthand that is not easy. But if you, it's absolutely possible. But if you need help in that area, you can absolutely reach out to me and we can discuss that. William over here on LinkedIn says, great leadership is a form of service. You are ensuring that the team you lead feel heard, absolutely supported. He says, supported and have growth opportunity. Your investors see the results. And as a leader, you are transparent and authentic. So everyone in your path have a sense of confidence and trust. Absolutely. William, I could not agree with you more, brother. Absolutely. That is so true. I, William, like I know, man, I mean, you said it so nicely, brother. Man, that's a mouthful, brother. Said, like I know, again, you said a mouthful, but the challenge is, man, a lot of people don't know how to get there. And if you keep, this is interesting. And then I was sharing this with, in a conversation with Wayne, my brother I was talking to earlier. This is interesting because it's something about the truth. And a lot of us will say, well, there's many different truths, and that many different ways to get to the truth. I'll put it that way. I won't say many different truths, but there are many different ways to get to a truth. Okay. But the interesting thing about the truth now, we can say there are many different vehicles on how to get to a truth, but there are not many truths. And let me explain. Here's what I mean by this. And this is kind of heavy, but let me explain this one. There's the truth, and then there's the other truth. Okay. And here's what I mean. Because the truth is progressive, the truth is moving forward. The truth, there's a scripture in the Bible that says that the word of God is profitable. And this could absolutely mean profits in regards to your business having some level of success. It could mean that a person gets a promotion. So I'm going to explain that further. That the word of God is profitable. So it saying that the truth, when the truth is revealed to us about different situations, different matters, perhaps concerning who we are as individuals or a new train of thought, that we're peeling back the layers on a particular matter or situation that we may be dealing with personally or professionally. Well, peeling back the layers and getting to the essence of what we're dealing with. And now that we've understood that and we've shed light on a particular matter, we can move forward. The truth is progress. The truth is profitable. You're not going to stand in the truth. Well, people make choices all day long, but to stand in the truth and it doesn't move you forward, or to stand in a truth and you're still trying to find the truth, at some point, the truth has to, a part of the truth or an acknowledgement, it has to set us free. It has to unlock the doors to an understanding. And as we're accepting this truth, we're going to yet another level, going to a deeper understanding. And that truth is going to have us moving forward. Too often, all too often, we as leaders can find ourselves, especially dealing with leadership from this manufactured space, we can find ourselves being on the defense rather than the offense. How many of us can drive a vehicle by looking forward and looking backward at the same time? It's impossible. I can remember as a kid, as a youth, when I ran track or ran cross country, and I was a fairly decent runner. But ideally, when I was running, a lot of times I would find myself, and my coach would always remind me, my coach would often remind me, not always, but often remind me, Curtis, stop looking back. Because my thing was, as I was getting near that finish line, and I seen my opponent, or from a different school, whereas we were racing against other schools, I would see my opponent coming up on me from the behind, and I found myself looking over my shoulder, and my coach, as he was at the finish line, he says, "Curtis, stop looking back, stop looking back." I was losing my momentum each time I was looking back, losing my position each time I was looking back, losing my focus each time I was looking back. So it's impossible to run a race or to actively move forward and progress, to score a point or a field goal or a basket, in a sense of sports. I'm using this analogy here, but it's difficult to eventually come into any level of authenticity when we're on the defense. And this is exactly what this manufactured leadership does. It keeps us on the defense. It keeps us in a space where, absolutely, William over here on LinkedIn says, keep your eye on the prize here. Let me go ahead and read some of these other comments here. There's a couple of comments here, I know. Williams over here on LinkedIn says, you must be secure in yourself so that you are not guarding your place and holding others down. Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, all of what you're saying, William, is absolutely true, man. And I think, both of us, as leaders, and many of other leaders here can absolutely understand that. And the challenge is that we as leaders, we need to take a stand on those things. And when you're trying to lead people or lead organizations, even lead our families as leaders, the challenge a lot of times is putting the things that this society has told us, and actually, to William's point, focusing and leading our own household, leading your own organization. But all too often, and to include the nonsense that creeps into the churches as well. All too often, we as people, we're trying to take a position that society holds because it makes people comfortable, and we're trying to take up a position of being authentic as well. And oftentimes, that level of manufactured leadership and that authentic leadership, there's a collision. They're in a collision course. They essentially appear like they're parallel to each other, but in fact, one is manufactured and the other is authentic. And the authenticity is who you and I are. That's who we are. We are a people, a body of people that work better in groups of people. connecting with each other, building connections. And through this manufactured leadership, it it's built on, as I mentioned earlier, it's built on the idea of coming from this space of control. It's built on the mindset, of this barbaric space, again coming from a Roman mindset. And oftentimes, I think sometimes that the challenge a lot of us have is that we can say that, oh, that's yesterday's news, that's yesterday. But the reality of it is that a lot of times how things start off, they don't typically change. I'm not saying that people can't change. That's not what I'm saying, because people do change. I'm an absolutely living witness of that. People do change. But when you're looking at the powers that be, again, this small group of people that is set, that have their hearts set on doing evil, there is a spirit behind it, ladies and gentlemen. Hear me out. I don't want to get super spiritual with you, but there is a spirit behind it. There's an essence behind it. There's a motivation behind it. And its motivation is to control. Its motivation is to have each of us making bricks, each of us building a house for Pharaoh, to the point where we are now enclosed within that house. We've built a we've built a prison for ourselves, essentially. And this prison may not necessarily be a physical prison, but a mental and emotional prison of enslavement. So until a man's mind is free, when I say man, I'm speaking women to humanity, until people decide to question things, to look at things more intently. And if you're an individual who has gone around the mulberry tree enough times, and you're sick and tired of going around that mulberry tree or tripping over the same thing, the same sandwich, or whatever the case might be, you've got to have questions. Why am I still here? What is going on? You got to have questions. Jeremy, thank you for joining me here over on LinkedIn. Appreciate you, man. And Jeremy says, Curtis, happy to be here and getting fed. You have a way. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jeremy. Thank you very much. William says he has a way of speaking to your soul. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, William. I very much, really appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you, sir. Thank you very much for that. So we have to be prepared to look at the real issue. And at some point, the issue is not them. At some point, the issue is not the other people. At some point, the issue is about us. And it's not that obviously, it's not that a person does it to themselves, but it's that a society has given us the tools that we believe that we needed, uninformed as it may have been for us. Uninformed, we're all uninformed on a major level. Uninformed as it may have been for us, we had these people who were in charge, so to speak. I'm using that very loosely. And they made decisions for us. And for a while, we went with the program. We went with the program for a while until we found out that their program didn't work. We found out that their program opposes freedom. We discovered their program was enslavement. Maybe not a physical enslavement, but a mental and emotional enslavement. This is why a man can be in a physical prison cell, or perhaps, if not in prison, on an island, perhaps. Maybe not too populated, but on an island, very few people. And he or she can be free. The challenges that we're dealing with is that we're not ready to let go of who they said that we are. Society said that, Curtis, you are XYZ. Society said that, William, you are XYZ. Zara, you are XYZ. Jeremy, you are XYZ. Fill in the blank. But in order to get to that level of authenticity, get to that space and that place, in order to get to that place, we've got to be prepared to disengage with how society views us or how we view ourselves through the eyes of society. We've got to be prepared to let those things go and be prepared to deal with the raw feelings, because at some point it becomes very difficult to continue to holding that mask up, because that's what the manufactured leader does. He or she wears a mask, and they've been wearing this mask, self-imposed as it may be. I think we were all given a mask to wear, and we fell in love with the idea or the concept of how society views us. We fell in love with the data that society provides us in regards to, just multiple different things. And we find ourselves using that information that society has given us in the way of data. We find ourselves using that data, that information, to leverage our lives according to the data. This is deep, guys. We can find ourselves leveraging our lives upon the data that society creates for us because they're so smart. And if you are into marketing, sure, that works. The data is important for marketing. But when you get into dealing with humanity, human lives, dealing with people who have families and people who are dealing with challenges, you've got to come more than with numbers. You've got to bring your soul to them. They need to be able to see the holes in your hand. And oftentimes, as leaders, we are unwilling to show our teams, even our spouses, even our kids, those individuals who are under us, our subordinates. We have a difficult time showing them the holes in our hands because it's scary sometimes. It's scary. It's scary showing those holes because, as I said earlier, oftentimes the manufactured leader chooses performance over presence. The manufactured leader says, go, 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 go. The manufactured leader said, you're not doing enough. And consequently, the manufactured leader has a difficult time touching those spaces and places within himself or herself. The manufactured leader is incapable of making a connection in most cases with their team, with their spouse. And I'm going to step out on a limb because I think that the entire world is desiring authenticity. The entire world is hungry. The entire world feels a pain where they're uncomfortable, where they're not sure what it is, but I'm uncomfortable. Or as I like to often share a lot of times is words that I've got a taste for something. I'm not sure what it is, but when I get there, when I taste it, I'm going to know exactly what it is. I believe the entire world is in that place. A place of recognizing that something's missing. It's not the manufactured leader anymore because they've played that game and they've played that game and they've played that game. And as I said earlier, there's something about the truth. There's something about the truth. The truth is progressive. The truth leads to keys that open doors. The truth helps us to discover who we are and to uncover those things that were once covered up. The truth brings life. And the manufactured leader, by design, wants to cover it up. So it becomes very difficult for us to walk in, or at least discover this authenticity. I believe it was Dr. Marcia said some time ago that leadership is spiritual. Leadership is absolutely spiritual. I would agree with her 1000%. But because the manufactured leader opposes, in most cases, forms of spirituality, he or she, in some cases, the manufactured leader has a little bit of God. Oh, I know God. I love God and things of that nature. Oh, I'm spiritual too. But it's under the wrong guise, under the wrong motivation. So the manufactured leader, as I stated earlier, is performance over presence. The manufactured leader often relies solely on his title, his or her title, their position, or external validation. And I think, interesting enough, I think a lot of us have been there. So my goal tonight is not to, I'm not, and then please understand me, don't take it the wrong way. I, the purpose of this conversation is to uncover certain things, to uncover certain things, to give you the option to know that you have a choice that you need to make. Years ago, many years ago, quick story here, really quick story here. Years ago, as prior to me getting married, uh, I was in a relationship, and we were going through a rough time in this relationship at the time, and and I said some things that I shouldn't have said, and but yet all along I had been this person who loved God and was spiritual and things of that nature, but I said some things that I should not have said. So here I was playing a podcast that I would listen to, or at least a podcast I had created, and it's been years ago. I think it was entitled "The Power of Words." And I remember as I was listening to that podcast, and as I was listening to that podcast that I created, and from the position where I was at that particular moment, as I was listening, the tears rolled down my face. And I remember pointing to my computer from which I was listening to the podcast entitled The Power of Words. The tears came down my face. I pointed to that computer, the speaker, and said, that's the person that I want to be. And this is many, many years ago. This is more than 15 years ago. That's the person that I want to be. With the tears going down my face. And the lady I was dating on the other side of the wall, not knowing what I was going through, but discouraged at myself because I was not living out that person who I believed myself to be. And perhaps a lot of you or some of you are in that space right now, that you're not living out that person that you see yourself to be. Every now and then, that authentic leader, a glimpse of that authentic leader creeps up. Such was the case for me as I was listening to that podcast, The Power of Words. That authentic leader stuck its head out. And there I was trying to grab onto him. But it was very difficult for me to grab onto that, to the glimpse of that or that mirage of that authentic leader. He was there. He was absolutely there. But it became difficult for me to grab onto him because I was in a different space, in place, a different time zone, so to speak, under the guise of a manufactured leader, under the guise of my interpretation of what a leader is. A man who could not control his emotions. A man at that particular time would say almost anything that came to his mouth, came to my mind. No, I didn't want to say those things, but I did, and I had to take responsibility for those things. And so I'm saying that to say, in order to choose the authentic leader, we're going to have to be accountable for what had taken place under the guise of the manufactured leader. And I'm not saying to beat yourself over the head. So whether you're a father, uncle, brother, whether you're a business owner, husband, I'm saying the time is now to take accountability so that you can change it. Because what you and I are unwilling to look at, it becomes very difficult for us to change it. We cannot, you and I cannot change what we're unwilling to look at. Oftentimes, when I was financially, I'm doing a lot better. Thank you, God. But there were times in my life when I was younger. Man, I hated to look at my bank account. I'd get paid and pay the bills, and it was great receiving a paycheck. It's always nice receiving a paycheck, but after the bills were paid, I'd found myself not wanting to look at the not wanting to look at my bank account. Again, being accountable for what I had left, being accountable for how I spent it, being accountable for the choices I made. All of those things have to be factored in when we are making that transition from manufactured leadership to walking into the authentic leader. Ideally, the manufactured leader is disconnected emotionally. The manufactured leader, in most cases, doesn't like to take responsibility. Now, we've beat up on the manufactured leader enough. Let's talk about this authentic leader. Let's talk about the place where I believe that you should be. Obviously, you have a choice in making a decision, and be it the manufactured leader to remain in your condition or your situation as the manufactured leader. Know that under the guise of the manufactured leader, these are things that you and I were given, myself included, at a particular time in my life. Most of us people in life, we've been given ideas on how we should think. And under the guise of this manufactured leader, he is he has a difficult time coming to himself because he sees himself as his own God. And maybe that's a little bit strong language, but the reality of it is that the manufactured leader sees himself or herself as the individual that has the answers. Hey, Marcello, thank you for joining over on LinkedIn, brother. Hey, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for joining, man. So let's talk about the authentic leader. Like I said earlier, we beat up on the manufactured leader. And as I stated before, leadership, leadership, leadership. Listen, please listen. Understand. Leadership is not about running an organization. It's you and I making a decision to run our own lives. And as you may have heard me say, or just kind of repeat what the Bible says, is that you cannot take, and I'm paraphrasing this, you cannot remove the speck out of your brother's eye first without removing the plank out of your own eye. You can, but the challenge is that in most cases, we ourselves have bigger issues to deal with. And if you and I have not confronted our own issues, we can find ourselves working and operating in that place of that manufactured leader, because that's exactly what the manufactured leader does. He or she looks for other people's problems to fix. He hasn't, or she hasn't, come to a place where they fix their own. So basically, the manufactured leader has been given a problem, doesn't understand, or doesn't, to his or her knowledge, doesn't know that they've been given a problem, because this particular leadership style doesn't work when you're dealing with people. It works when you're dealing with things in a lab, because you can produce the same results over and over. So when you are in a lab dealing with this manufactured leadership, it absolutely works. That's probably the best place for it. But when you're dealing with people, this manufactured leadership doesn't work. It absolutely ruins people. It's a theory or a concept that never worked. If you've ever tried to force someone to do something, or find yourself under the pressure of dealing with people who will not do what you told them to do. Perhaps you're a parent when your kids don't do what you told them to do, when your team doesn't follow the instructions you set for them. Under this manufactured leadership, we can find ourselves taking upon the stress of trying to control people or diagnose people with, or unofficially, I'll say, but unofficially diagnose people with issues and challenges because they're not walking in the same direction. But under the guise of the authentic leadership, we recognize humanity first. Hmm. Okay. I want to share this thought here over on LinkedIn. Zara says, "What exactly?" He says, "Satan is manufactured leader. Manufactured leader." Now, some religious leaders think Satan, who caused Adam and Eve to be expelled from heaven, um, as Satan has caused Adam and Eve to be expelled from heaven, as the children of fallen parents, we all need to be alert because Satan comes in many forms. Sometimes he comes in the form of a gambler who invites us to gamble. Sometimes a beautiful young woman who tries to seduce us. Satan can uh, come in the least expected forms, like Zara, who is questioning, but truth is different. Absolutely, Zara. Well said, brother. Well said. Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, those motivations, the spirit behind those different motivations will disguise themselves as all kinds of, as Zara said so nicely over here, that motivation or that manufactured leadership, the spirit behind it, if you will, is a spirit of evil. It is a spirit of control. It is a spirit of. There's a scripture in the Bible that says one man built his house upon the sand, another man built his house upon a rock, and so there's obviously a stark difference when we are building something or using the appropriate materials or using materials that are less of a lesser quality. Again, there's a stark differences. Those are stark differences, and they're going to heed quite different results. And so, as Zara said so nicely over here on LinkedIn, it is important through a manufactured leadership, if you will, that uh, that these annoyances, these nuances in life are going to show up in all different kinds of forms, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why it's so important to get to that place of authenticity, because when you can come to this place of authenticity, you can see the works of this manufactured leadership, if you will. And and as Zara's shared so nicely, you can see a motivation that's coming in a manner that opposes what you're doing. And I wouldn't necessarily always be prepared to toss it out, but ask a question: why is this particular motivation showing up now? Why is she showing up in the case of Zara just mentioned, this beautiful woman? Why is she showing up right now? And know that in the space of kind of what Zara was mentioning, there is there is a a motivation. There's a spirit behind it. There's an energy behind it. And just as soon as we're trying to make this transition from the manufactured leader and to come into a place of being authentic about our dealings with ourselves, learning who we are, rest assured there are going to be people who are going to approach you with that manufactured energy or that manufactured leadership space that we've been talking about. And as they're approaching you, You and I now have to determine how we're going to show up, because now you are making a decision as quick as you have to make the decision. You're now making a decision to either stand on your new values or to go back to the default system, which was the manufactured leadership, the manufactured motivation, and the spirit behind it. So you and I have to be prepared to make that quick split decision on how you're going to respond to your coworker, your team, as a leader, how you're going to respond to your subordinates. Because rest assured, in most cases, if they're giving us content or sharing data with us out of a manufactured space, it becomes a challenge for us sometimes to hold our position and not give them more of what they've been giving us. That's the challenge. But we have to be prepared to hold our position and not put the mask on again. As difficult as it may be, we may be uh, influenced to put that mask on again. Zara says that the devil is nowhere else. It's inside us. Interesting. Very interesting, Zara. Yeah, that's interesting, Zara. I would say there are motivations, brother. I would say there are motivations, and I think that for all of us, brother, we can have the right spirit to do the right thing, but because of the influences that are in this world that we live in, that the influences, the energy that's behind the motivation or that spirit that's running amok in this world, if you will, that those influences they will a lot of times try to take up residence in our minds. Those influences, again, those motivations out there will try to absolutely take up residence in our own mind. And I think that once a person has decided to look at life from a spiritual perspective rather than a religious perspective, there's plenty to gain. There's access to different things that we were at one time, again, coming from a manufactured religious perspective, if you will. There were things that we were cut off from. But when you're prepared to walk into a place of authenticity, stepping into a place of connecting the dots spiritually, you can now be prepared to open doors, gain access to things that were not previously available to us. But I do believe, I get what you're saying, absolutely, Zara, what you're saying, man. I do believe that there are absolutely motivations out there, man, spiritual motivations that to the person who is not knowing, to the person who does not understand, those influences will absolutely try to take residence in our mind and in our hearts. And at some point, the values that we may have believed in, we find ourselves dropping our guard and now considering other influences that are out there, other energies that produces these influences that are out there, whether it be through social media, whether it be through television, again, all forms of media, content that's shared throughout the world, brother. So I do absolutely get where you're coming from. uh Yeah, absolutely. So Zara over here on LinkedIn says, if you want to strengthen your faith, you will need to soften. You'll need to soften inside for your faith to be rock solid. Your heart needs to be as soft. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, absolutely. I love the way you said that, Zara. I think it's a very important, just a powerful statement you just shared, a powerful comment you just shared there. Uh, and I think the softness is the compassion that we must gain because I think ideally that when we have come from this manufactured leadership or this manufactured mindset of what society has handed down to us and the way of education, the way of again indoctrinating many of us through education, through media and things of that nature, through television, um, there is systems that have been created, but in order to uh, step out of those systems and come into the knowledge, a greater knowledge, to come up to a higher place from a spiritual perspective, we must be prepared to soften our hearts. And that softening of the heart, I believe, and this is kind of how I'm receiving it, Zara, over on LinkedIn, is that we are acquiring compassion for the other people. First, compassion for ourselves, because when we're coming out of this deception, um, it can be the truth can be difficult to swallow, though it will set us free. It will unlock doors and things of that nature. Sometimes the truth, as medicine, can be hard to take. It's not always easy accepting the truth because you can feel obviously manipulated over time. Man, and it's hard to believe someone would stoop to this level and to manipulate me, to tell me this lie. I've been faithful to these people or to this organization, and they're not, yeah, absolutely. And they're not who they say they are. And so the truth in that regard can be very, very difficult to accept. And again, it does not change the truth. But when you have to consider the truth for your situation, for our respective situations, in order to come out of the condition that you and I may be in right now, we must be prepared to accept the truth. You first must be looking for the truth. I'll put it that way. Because if you're not looking for the truth, if you're not tired of tripping over the same thing over and over, or uh, if you're not tired of the same thing, if you haven't seen your situation change in eons and years, and if you're tired of giving excuses for what you're going through, for what you're dealing with, if you're tired of pointing the finger at someone else, then the truth is there waiting for you. The truth will knock on your door. Only if you've been looking for it. But if you haven't been looking for it, the only other recourse is to remain in your condition. It's really that simple, ladies and gentlemen. And this is not me oversimplifying it. It's either moving forward or we're not. And I'm not talking about whether a person is walking or taking a train or taking a bus or some other method of transportation. The truth is progress. The truth is movement. The truth is acceleration. And over a period of time, when something has not accelerated, and it's still in its same condition as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. There's something that you and I are missing. There's something that's covered up that we don't know that's covered up. We're not asking the right questions. Because when you and I ask the right questions, we can eventually get the truth, though we may not like it. It may be uncomfortable, but we can get the truth because the truth is the only thing that's going to change your situation. So, again, I want us to think logically here. If you and I have been in a situation and for 10, 15, 20 years, the situation has not changed, consider the information that you have gathered about, absolutely, Zara says, reasoning. Consider the information that you have been squandering for however long. Consider the information that you've been sitting on. Consider the information that has established your thought. Begin to ask questions about your situation. If you find yourself in one relationship after the other, it may not be the other person's fault. Consider asking yourself questions about yourself. Consider it. Because when we don't consider those things, we make ourselves available for the manufactured responses. We make ourselves available to the manufactured excuses that we give. The authentic leader is self aware. The authentic leader understands himself. The authentic leader is not afraid to look within. The authentic leader leads by example. The authentic leader will use himself as the example. The authentic leader is not afraid to show or say that, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. But the manufactured leader is afraid to do that. The manufactured leader, in most cases, has a difficult time apologizing. The authentic leader recognizes that being vulnerable is a strength, as opposed to the manufactured leader who sees being vulnerable as a weakness. The authentic leader is able to admit that he or she makes mistakes and quickly learns from them publicly. All too often, even on this broadcast, you guys have heard me share different things, and I've got challenges as well. I'm not perfect. No one is. So the authentic leader recognizes that, and he is prepared to put things in the right perspective. Hey, Yolanda, over on Facebook. I'm just looking at this. Thank you for joining me over on Facebook. I'm not sure if you're still there, but thank you for joining me. The authentic leader is not afraid to apologize. The authentic leader is about building connections. The authentic leader is about building other leaders. The authentic leader shows up without his mask or without her mask. And as a result, this decision that you and I must be prepared to make, because as I stated earlier, the manufactured leader or the motivation behind the manufactured leader is that in itself manufactured. It's been established upon systems. It's been established upon concepts and ideas that end up, in fact, enslaving us and those who we lead. Because rest assured, if you are enslaved as a leader, as a recourse, you can't do anything else but produce other enslaved people. And when these enslaved people don't follow your program as a manufactured leader, when these enslaved people don't follow your program, you place the blame on them. Manufactured leaders, in most cases, are unwilling to accept responsibility nor hold themselves accountable. Manufactured leaders are a product of the system versus the authentic leader. He's a part of the system that God has established. He or she is a leader that can recognize when the atmosphere has changed. The atmosphere being the things that are taking place on the inside, not by what he or she creates in their head, but reading your audience, so to speak. This is what the authentic leader is capable of doing, reading their audience, again, from an internal perspective. The authentic leader builds connections. Lastly, I want to drop this here. The authentic leader knows that above all, that leadership is built upon relationships. And when we can put that in perspective, that leadership is absolutely built upon relationships, we can be prepared to build the families, the businesses, be prepared to bring the dreams and the ideas or concepts that we or visions, and we can be prepared to bring those things to fruition. Because know that in most cases, our dreams are hopefully bigger than ourselves, meaning that it's going to take other people to be put in place to help us fulfill those dreams, accomplish those goals, and build that business, whatever you might be working on. It's going to take people to take their rightful places. So, as we've been talking about, manufactured leadership or authentic leadership, choosing the right path. So during this conversation, I hope that I've given you enough content to make the right decision. I hope this conversation has been a blessing to you. And as I stated before, I am a executive coach, men's life coach, specializing in transformational leadership for men. And I have a opportunity for you to connect with me if you are so inclined to about leadership or creating a strategy for your leadership, be it your home or be it your business, place of business. As a leader, as a CEO, I work with high achieving men who are not afraid to say, "Hey, Curtis, I need some help in this area." So reach out to me. The link's on the screen there, bit.ly/free 30-minute coaching. Again, that is a opportunity for you and I to connect and to see if we are a good fit. So that being said, I am going to say goodbye for now. We will see you guys next week, and I will be back here same time. Again, thank you for hanging out with me, and we will. Jeremy, thank you, man. Absolutely. Thank you for your time and show, Curtis. Absolutely, Jeremy. Thank you for always showing up, brother. Appreciate you. Before I leave, I want to say thank you, Zara, man, for your great comments. Thank you, Yolanda and Celeste over on Facebook and didn't see if we had any YouTube listeners, but again, thank you, Zara, over on LinkedIn here. Thank you, Marcello. Thank you, my brother Wayne. I know you might be listening in. I appreciate you listening in. Thank you, William, host extraordinaire. Thank you, sir, for listening in. And we got a few more people. Let's see. Thank you, Sean. I think I read your comment as well. I think, well, Sean mentioned earlier, he says, I just published a Substack piece titled The Leadership Mirror. That should be very interesting, Sean. So thank you for sharing that, Sean. Also, thank you for participating. And I want to make sure I read this comment here. Sean's pretty pretty there as well. So Sean says, manufactured leadership is exhausting. It's built on who you think people want you to be instead of who you truly are. Absolutely, Sean. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so true. Manufactured leadership takes a lot of work, but I think a lot of times, man, when we've been in that space of that manufactured leadership for so long, man, guess what? That's all we know to do. And so eventually, like you said, it's exhausting to the point where we tire ourselves out, to the point where our body just mentally, emotionally, and physically shuts down. But when you are working from that uh, that authentic space, man, there's a renewed space, a renewed sense of life, and looking at things from a different perspective, man. And I think that, again, as Dr. Marcia said so nicely, leadership is absolutely spiritual, and when we connect with leadership from that perspective alone, we'll find that the life being brought back to us, the life being given back to us, so to speak, in many different forms. So thank you for that, Sean. Great comment. And let's see here. We're wrapping up, guys. And thank you for Tanique. Thank you for sharing your comment as well. She says the truth can be manipulated, but still remains the truth. But was still the truth until, or at least can be proven to be false. So thank you for that as well. Thank you, Peter. People should choose authentic leadership, Peter says. Thank you, Joshua Lee. So that's all we have. And so for those who are watching as well, thank you. Please share this out, guys. I forgot to mention that earlier. I had actually worked on an entire script before I before I started, but nevertheless, share this out. If you found this information valuable, guys, share this out with someone who you care about. If you don't care about them, you probably won't share this out because this is good information, guys. So anyways, we'll get ready to say ciao for now, and we will talk with you later. Bye-bye.